And with that, I would love to introduce Laura herself. Laura Hyunjhee Kim is a fantastic multimedia artist and writer. She has shown her work all over the world, including at the Athens Digital Art Festival, Central Cultural Sao Paulo, and Transfer Gallery in Los Angeles. Her projects have also been featured in the San Francisco Chronicle, Art Slant, and Hyperallergic, and she's been an artist in residence at the Internet Archive and Korea National University of the Arts. Laura is also the author of the book Blobosphere, A Musing on Blobs, published in 2019. Laura received her BS from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and her MFA in New Genres from the San Francisco Art Institute, and she currently lives and works in Boulder, Colorado, and is a PhD candidate in intermediate art, writing, and performance at the University of Colorado. We are so excited to have her here today to talk more about Living Lab, our current exhibition up at Archer Gallery at archergallery.space. So thank you so much again, Laura, for coming, and please help me welcome her.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone who sent something they're special, like, noon, wherever you are, time zone with me. And yeah, it's just such an honor to be able to present work virtually. And I guess that's the perks of being a digitally based artist, I guess, in this current climate. And without further ado, I'll just share my screen here. Can you see everything?
Mm-hmm. Yes, looking good.
Here we go.
Hello, I'm Laura. Hi, no, I'm Laura. My name is Laura. Hello, I'm Laura. I'm Laura. My name is Laura. Hey, it's me. Hey, Laura. It's Laura. It's Laura. It's just hey, it's me. Laura. It's Laura. This is me. This is me. Look at me. Look at me. It's Laura. Laura. It's Laura. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. It's me. Laura. Hey, it's Laura. Laura. It's Laura. It's Laura. It's Laura. I'm Laura. It's Laura. It's me, Laura. I'm Laura. It's Laura. Laura. Come on. It's me, Laura. Laura. It's me, Laura.
It's me, Laura. Hi. And so I will introduce you to a little bit more about who I am, where I come from, my background, and what I see, feel, touch, experience as a Laura, as a Hyunjhee, as a Kim, as an earthling, as a living species known as human, as a Korean American artist. And then I will go into kind of talking about my process a little bit that leads up to the Living Lab. And I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity to show this and like kind of build this work within the context of Archer Gallery. Great. I love the enthusiasm. And so we'll so I'll take you through this journey of like my thought processes. Basically, I go by the pronouns she, her, hers. And so later on, if you have any questions, please feel free to chime in between chat too. Michelle can help moderate. And I really like conversation. And so hopefully you'll be able to, you'll be able to exchange ideas towards the end. And so segueing back to where I started. I was born in the States, Palo Alto, California. And I lived there until I was 9. And I moved to Korea, Seoul, when I was 9. And I moved back to the States when I was 19. And my parents, who are currently watching here at 5 a.m. in the morning from Korea, hello, Mom and Dad. And part of it, I started out as a biology major in college. I wanted to be a veterinarian. And organic chemistry was not my favorite thing to do. And so I kind of pivoted, I took this video art class that kind of changed my whole view, like the way I see things. Working with the moving image was just so like powerful for me. And like at the same time, kind of going through a bunch of different cultural shifts growing up. Art as a language really helped me connect with people, with like my community, and also humor, which was the most difficult part to understand in the English kind of language. Through art, I was able to explore that more and more. And so that's where I kind of like want to start the talk, this concept of a blob. And, I don't know how many meetings you had today or if this is your first one, but I kind of want us to like stretch and move a little bit, like kind of like a blob. Move your face, loosen your jaw bones a little bit. And so, yeah, so we're like, so this idea of a blob, this like kind of the imperfection, the ambiguous, the kind of unknown, this kind of very sensation driven, boundary defying idea of a blob is very much how I see my work operating, how I talk about my work. And again, this kind of thinking through making process that I'm very committed to is inspired so much between me and the world with other people. And so like this kind of space that we share right now to me is a very blobby space. Oftentimes, talking to another person, you don't understand, but you kind of like wink and you understand each other without words. And so for me, that's a very blobby space to be in. And it's something that that directs a lot of the way I think or navigate my practice. And so all of this, as Michelle mentioned, I published a book last year called Entering the Blobosphere, A Musing on Blobs. It's a performative writing and talks about, blob as this, the way that we embody ourselves and kind of work with the unknown aspects of word or in between words. It consists of blob observations of thinking about using the word blob as a foundation for rethinking about things around the world. And so basically for me, languaging is the essence of blobbing. Languaging is a word that one of my favorite people here in Boulder, amazing artist Michelle Ellsworth says, talks about language in the making, languaging. And so I think a lot.
Sleep. It is necessary. A time to rejuvenate your mind and body, realign with yourself thinking about the bright future ahead of you. An average human being takes about an average of 20 minutes to fall asleep on an average daily basis, which is quite some time to be caught in a moment of stillness and utter silence. As a busy modern human being high on speed, are you able to fully relax? Or does your mind start replaying your day? Are you a non-average human being who is tightly wired and prone to transforming the comforts of your own bed into a productive space for thinking? Do you feel like your humble purpose on this earth is to instill ideations that help prepare this world for new possibilities? Constantly blessed with the bliss of uncontainable creativity? Are you one of those humans who love maximizing this period of time with uncontrollably wild imaginations, which you will wake up in the morning and regret to have spent all that time on? Are you an artist, scientist, technologist, philosopher, or perhaps a neurotic hobbyist? And does your wandering thoughts weigh more on your mind than it should on your eyelids? We understand. It is not an easy task to not think big. End of the day, 20 minutes to become 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140 minutes per week. That is a lot of unused time for uninterrupted self-reflection and inspiration. A time for you and a time only you share with yourself. A prologue to becoming the protagonist of your own dreams and subconscious desires. Practically speaking, time is money, and that is a lot of money going to waste. So, how do we maximize our productivity during this time without disrupting our own circadian rhythms? We have the perfect solution for you. Say goodbye to sleeping aids, white noise machines, and other substances that help you temporarily log off from your physicality. Introducing you to Think-A-Lot, virtuality made affordable and more necessary than before. Settle into your PJS, and the Think-A-Lot wearable headset will help you zone out, granting you admission to the mysterious theaters of the mind. To maximize usability and portability, Think-A-Lot straps onto the head of the user and is adjustable based on the user's head size. To minimize the learning curve, Think-A-Lot follows the standardized architecture of ubiquitous VR headsets. Highly customizable and user-friendly, the user can input any image or text on a Think-A-Lot sticky note and attach it to the end of the Think-A-Lot drone. Once powered, the connected Think-A-Lot Arduino board sends a signal to a Think-A-Lot servos motor that sweeps and swings a pendulum of Think-A-Lot notes side to side before the user's eyes. Along with a LED attachment that allows users to use the device in complete darkness, Think-A-Lot applies the ancient practice of hypnotism, which helps initialize the surrealist data processing of real-world inputs. For skeptics, hypnotism has been a practice since the late 18th century. First explored as animal magnetism by Austrian physician Franz Mesmer, mesmerism never went away, which proves its efficacy to a certain extent. An ancient practice motorized by the endlessly spinning modern minds, Think-A-Lot notes turn mesmerizations of a dream reality. Slowing down the body, the resulting output and desired experience of Think-A-Lot is highly dependent on the user's unbreachable personal and private history. Selection of Think-A-Lot notes.
So that was a piece called Think a Lot that is about what I thought of when I couldn't go to bed and was trying to, as especially those who are artists here, or just have a lot of baggage in life, will kind of, commiserate. It's a great idea, but this idea that's great is not making me fall asleep. And so it's a device that helps you maximize your productivity before you go to bed. And so a lot of my work starts from thinking a lot, but also as everyone, but kind of making that transparent, like process of thinking very transparent. I like to share what it's like to go through and discover new or have new curiosities by various experiments, through kind of showing that me trying to understand the world, and also in return what it means to live in this current in the world that I'm in the current moment of the now. And basically I am a storyteller. I'm a storyteller who uses my body to be able to write and read and navigate. And these kind of
there's a question in the chat that says, was that something that you just thought of over one night or throughout a number of nights?
That piece specifically?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think it's definitely accumulation of many nights, but usually it's like fling, light bulb, and then execute. So I'll talk more about that in a bit, but a lot of my process, as you see more going forward, is very intuitive. It's very improvisational, and a lot of it happens here. And so it's very much of a one woman performance in her room. Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks. And so all kind of creative forms of expression get expressed through performative lectures, presentations, performances, workshops for people, along with just conventional exhibitions in gallery spaces or virtual exhibitions, at the one that you're currently checking out at the moment. And it was also the Got Milk commercial that's still happening at the moment. So I also do a lot of social media performances.
I think I'm losing my mind, trying to stay inside the lines. It's like you're running late. How you keep staying the same.
And so I like to trouble spaces and the tools that we use every day, especially to connect with each other through digital technologies. And I think about a lot of what art can do operating in these spaces. And thematically, that's kind of like a hint of, I primarily language through basically performance that centers around the body, that reimagines human and non-human interactions, and addresses various kind of emerging technologies, digital culture that has a tendency to very much mask the human on the other side of the screen, which sometimes I like to say in a post-buttonless world. So that very glossy, this kind of space we're in, I might not have anything below here, like there's something very disembodied about this kind of culture we're living in. And through humor, through various forms of expression, I like to talk about those from various perspectives. But in the foundation, through all of it, I have to move to make. And thinking through making is a big theme of how I talk about what I do. And this kind of thinking through making is a very collaborative process. So, it's working on a very cellular level, working on with my nervous system, muscles, kind of flesh, bones. Like when sometimes you have like bodily problems or some sort of like, something's not right in your body, you feel it, right? And it changes the way you interact, changes the way you move and navigate. And everything has to always be in this kind of like harmony and simpatico. And I also see that as a collaboration. And I also collaborate with other people as well, and along with myself too. So these collaborations also extend to collaborating with squirrels with a banana, with raccoons, with ducks, with mountains, clouds, with the wind. And so my idea of collaboration is very broad because I think as an artist, being open is just so important, and not discriminating one to the other or hierarchy is just so important. And so Synthetic Empathic Intelligent Companion Artifacts, Seika Human Interaction Labs, is a project I will talk more about later on because it leads on to the Living Lab. And then Sharing Turtle is a collaboration with artist Libby Rose Striegel. And we pose as art entrepreneurs who kind of talk about how important it is to making disruption easy and solving technological solutions is necessary to kind of create a symbiotic human-tech relationship through various interventions, collaborations, multimedia, performances. We create work together. Center for Emotional Materiality is a collaboration with artists Herbie Saraf, M.I. Fleur, Carolyn Cinders, Mariah Hill, Marcus Fleming, M.I. Fleur, and we're all coming from different backgrounds. One's like a therapist, social worker. We have a policy researcher in AI, another researcher in VR, AR, and all of this this collaboration goes into researching about the role of emotion and how technology really intervenes with the way we feel, and also talking about the kind of social and labor that goes into maintaining the foundations for technology and how all of that needs to be addressed from a very bodily level. And collaborate with artist Mark America, and we publish. Yeah, it's an investigation about how persona making building can lead into space for research. And that leads on to this project that I worked on until last year, still a work in progress. I think it will be until the day I die, probably. But it's a piece called Synthetic Empathic Intelligent Companion Artifacts, Seika Human Interaction Lab. And it's a project about persona building as a research, as a way of researching for creative practices. And so I'm the founding director of Synthetic Empathic Intelligent Companion Artifacts, Seika Human Interaction Labs. It's an actual site. You can go online, seikalabs.org. And it's a virtual research organization that is primarily disseminating research through online resources, through material production, immaterial production, basically trying to figure out what will be in every household 100 years from now, what will stay, what will never change, is it us humans? And since it's a big question, I can't do it alone, so I have 12 different cyborgian researchers who've worked with me on this project. And it's a very elaborate kind of system. There's a human, non-human resources thing that happens, the handbook that's used to direct all of this research. The primary goal of the organization was to create companion artifacts that could provide companionship for humans. And I'll share some of the artifacts that have resulted from the research in this specific lab.
Thanks for tuning into VHS in Tech. Each week we interview virtual humans who work in the VH tech industry to unravel human-centered technologies from a VH virtual human perspective. Hello VHs in Tech, great to be here with you at this shared moment in time. Before I further introduce Seika Human Interaction Labs, I would like to express that the opinions I address here today are my own and I do not speak on behalf of Seika Human Interaction Labs. Human-centered perspectives? Can you further elaborate on this and its implication on the well-being of VHS? To quote Ivan Sutherland, who invented this virtual reality head mount, for humans situated in the physical world, we are part of the wonderland into which Alice walked. We are malleable like clay, customized with algorithms, projected onto, and finished with a role to play. I gather that the general sentiment we have towards this phenomena is widely divisive and complex due to the varying degrees of artificial intelligence we are given.
And so that was the non-human researcher, Laura TBD, and various other artifacts take the image as so. This is a poster about how dopamine manipulation in social media affects humans and make them long more so for this kind of human touch in a, again, post-buttonless world. And these kind of posters were shown in various conferences as artifacts that get translated and into human physical pieces. And another research artifact is called a trash queen pulverator that thinks about the analogies between human body and a pulverator, which is a garbage can disposal. So I'll briefly show you about that.
To activate the trash clean pulverator, a few simple tracks and operator. Turn on the switch, now swish, swish. Paris down the waves, east of Vegas. Run the water, cold, cold water. Bring the waste down the drain. Hollow organs, 226 foot muscle. Behave. Warm water enzymes, warm water bile. Run, wild, and free. Stop, stop, make it stop. Waste is gone down the drain, 30 seconds run. No wasted time, gotta run, 50 seconds run. Really gotta go. Fled, on the switch, small bowel, large bowel, all the bowels, 1 second, wait, what? Then, turn off. TQP, 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 TQP. Oh, before the uninfirmed, oh shit. Never force feast in the pulverator. They don't want the pulverator. Small chunk polymer in the pulverator. DNA, RNA in the pulverator. Do not put lead, do not put wire, do not put your hands on it, try me. Do not feed plastic, do not feed plates, do not feed your life.
And then a few more physical artifacts were the result for many of the projects. This is called a crypto coprolite. I don't know if you are familiar with the term coprolite, but basically it's fossilized species. And so it was a workshop about having individuals cryptify their very sensitive data and creating coprolite. And also forms of various papers that were produced that were used to apply for various conferences. And so this kind of idea of artifact or this just technological artifacts that we are constantly engaging with have been a very central theme about what I do. And these, again, like bringing in the kind of blobbiness, like we're in these rectangles that are putting us in a specific box. Like, you know, our posture is very rigid. It's very orchestrated based on the technologies we use. And this has been this kind of like this idea of speculative world building, storytelling within this narrative whole scenario that I created through Seika has been bleeding out more so into the real world, as I would like to say, or the world that I live in. So me, as me in this current space, real time now. And that investigation, again, it's like we're all part of this. We're all part of, we're active in this kind of this moment where we're all speaking with these artifacts, technological artifacts, or just everyday things that we create, that we engage with, interact with, talk. And I've been interested in this concept, Homo absurdus, coined by Lonnie Aronson. And he's coming from more of a evolutionist ecology perspective, but talks about the only creature that refuses to be what it is. So Homo absurdus, human that spends its whole life trying to convince itself that its existence itself is not absurd. And thinking about how, in relation to technology or in relation to our bodies, like how we want everything to be faster, stronger, better, more innovation, more speed. And at the same time, we kind of see this kind of idea of like self-impermanence, like this anxiety kind of rise, especially through this connection with our body, happens with thinking more about what's around us versus kind of focusing back on ourselves. And so I've been very curious about talking about returning to the body, coming back home, like keeping your body as a home. And this is where Living Lab as a idea, concept, umbrella, contextual, shape-shifting metaphor comes in. And thinking about the body as as a way to be the home, but also as a way to improvise in the everyday, responding to the unknown, uncertain, and also thinking about what it means to live, and thinking about the precarity of transformation and change, but how necessary that is. And I've had some crazy life experiences over the past year that has very much influenced the way I think. And I think we can all kind of like think about that in the context of 2020 as well. And so it's a very much of like bringing back this whole performance in the everyday, and talking about how every day can be inspiring once you open up to it, once you're curious about it. And also in that process, how uncomfortable it can be, how discomforting it can be. But also that discomfort is something that is so important. And so it goes, I've been thinking a lot about how, yeah, to feel or not to feel is the privilege. To be able to ignore what you're feeling and not say something about it is also a privilege. And so basically thinking about the body as a living lab. And so we all have our own living labs that we're operating in. And these works get very odd I think in a great way. So oftentimes posing as a speculative movement fitness instructor. For instance, there's a piece called Finger Flexor in the exhibition that is helping you use a rubber band as a way to flex your fingers to get stronger, to be able to be better at scrolling. Get Fittergize, which is using a banana as and a remote control as a way to charge your body to be more energetic. I also do a lot of social media collaborations and dig into histories of various objects that I see in the household as consumables. That in specific video is dancing with an eggplant, and then going into writing a whole narrative about what an eggplant is and how it's been manifested or received in the current contemporary situation of the eggplant emoji. And then another piece is it's not in part of the the exhibition online, but high feel low tech workout. You can find it on YouTube. It's basically foam rolling with Alexa. It's a 22-minute set, and I totally encourage you to try to do it. You don't have to have Alexa for it, obviously, but yeah, it's something. I won't show it due to time, but all you need is a cylinder foam object or cylinder hard object, and if you want a yoga mat or some sort of cushion thick blanket to participate. Oh, it wants to turn stuff on. So this kind of idea of if you feel something, say something, and it kind of goes back into a very personal, I think, space, because I'm a very nervous public speaker, so I tend to talk really fast. But I realized over time that kind of, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when you're in a group situation, whether it's a classroom, whether it's giving an artist talk, or wanting to you have a question, right? You have something that beats in your heart so much that you want to say something, but you feel like people are going to judge you. So that's where I think this whole kind of project comes from. It's like this, like, do, like your heart is beating so fast. You want to say something, but I know that if I say something, it might make me uncomfortable in reciprocation. But I realized this process of this heart beating, this gut like kind of reaction to things happening around me is a very instinctual and motor, or kind of a source for research, like where research starts for me as an artist. And how then again, this discomfort, this because my heart's about to like pound out of my chest, is a very important part of making. And so that's where this whole like idea of a philosopher comes in, and thinking about the shape of what is a philosopher, what is a philosophy, and how does all of that work go into a living lab to be experimented with. And again, living lab is not a novel term. It's actually, you can search online, but it's more within, it started being used around, I think, 2003 or 4 or something through the MIT Media Lab. But I'm not using it as that, but I kind of co-opted that term to relanguage. And so part of the exhibition, there's a link here that says, what is philosophy? And you can go on the site, philosophy.online. It's an entire performative writing project that is in progress. So hopefully by the closing, I'll have more to report back on. But it starts from talking about inviting you, actually all of you here as a philosopher, to join me, and talks about what the shaping of philosophy is, what a score, like the bodily score is to create philosophy looks like, how our body has wisdom and how that can inform the making of philosophy, and the kind of the survival mechanism of to feel or not to feel, this kind of fight, flight, freeze, and kind of going back into your nervous system. And then the practice of philosophy. And you don't have to be an artist to practice philosophy, I feel like. Every day is just to be able to kind of speak from your feelings and kind of get in touch without packaging what everything's, how you communicate with each other. So it's really a project, I think, about a very extensive way of talking about, like, let's be human with each other, understand what it means to be human, also appreciate the affects that we have are influenced through non-human interaction, and then again, compassion and how we can use more of that in the world in general, and how that informs my practice, of course. So it's very autobiographical. It's a whole process of project about healing as well for me. And so the site, I don't know if all of you kind of went in and looked in through it. Thank you again, Michelle, Raymond, for making this amazing thing, putting it together. And of course, these are not, I call these philosophic artifacts. And a lot of these videos that are here were in collaboration with artist musician Chris Karenni, and also my brother Jeffrey Kim, who goes by the producer named Slom. And then I think another piece was in collaboration with Libby Rose Striegel. And so it's a whole process of looking at things, being curious, and creating things, and thinking about how this kind of felt form of knowledge, touching things, experiencing things, can influence or hopefully change the narrative of how we live every day. And if we go on the website, there's a philosophic artifact collaboration. And this is where I think hopefully all of you will be interested in participating. So let's see. This is so I like to say every gut has a box. In this box, we store shit no one can see. So I want us to kind of take out that shit and see it and feel it and talk about it. And so December 2nd, I'm going to host a workshop online. And then if you can't make that, of course, there's individual sessions that we can do by appointment. But I wanted to, how everything is so blobby in my world, I wanted to do a workshop about feeling without touching and kind of create and expand the exhibition together. And it's inspired by the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. You can search it online by John Koenig. And it's a list of invented words. Sometimes you're feeling things or going through things, you just don't have that word for it. And since we're in the context of being remote and being virtual, e-meeting each other, I wanted us to kind of create these artifacts. It could be video form, it could be some sort of performance, it could be text-based, it could be poetry, it could be like a ceramic object, it could be origami, it could just be a crinkled sheet of paper. But I thought it would be really special to be able to kind of carry on this kind of space of making and making together, but also feeling together. And in this moment when we can't really touch things, right? or touch each other. I mean, that's also weird, but like we'll hug each other. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. And so, yeah. And so at the end of the exhibition, in February, I think 5th, right, Michelle? 6th, February 6th.
Yeah, 5th is the closing reception.
Yeah, so I want to kind of have that all archived online, so we can kind of look back and also, you know, artifacts or things we live with. It's things that go with us, carry on. And I think this moment is very interesting and is very much archive worthy and archivable and should be archived. And so, yeah.
Thanks, Laura. This is amazing. Sorry, everybody, again for the weirdos jumping into the Zoom call. I've never had that happen before. I feel like that was somehow like planned in a way, but it totally wasn't. Like, it's like the unknown, and we're talking about blobs, and we're talking about responding in real time, and here we are dealing with that. What a weird time we're all going through and living in right now. But yeah, thank you so much, Laura. That was really, really insightful. Yeah, I'd like to open it up to Q&A if anybody has questions. And of course, feel free to use the chat function if you don't feel comfortable auditorily asking questions. So,
I hate to start it again. I think I started it on Wednesday.
Nice to see you again, Robin.
Laura, it's kind of funny because I had this really interesting experience last night that I totally think you would appreciate. Because you're talking about, you know, things that go on in your life where you cannot touch or cannot interact, like you're interacting without actually having the physicality of it. And also your love of little critters and raccoons and stuff like that. I started to notice a couple days ago that when I go out, I do change little litter boxes and take the garbage out in the middle of the night, like about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because I'm a total night owl. And I started to notice that there's this raccoon that's living in our backyard, and he waits for me to come out the door, climbs up on the roof, follows me all the way around the edge of the house as I'm walking to the garage. And yesterday he was reaching down to touch me on the, you know, like on the head, like he was leaning over. And it was so funny because my instinct was immediately to, you know, because I like animals, to just, you know, like reach back. And then it was like that, but I can't have that type of relationship with you because we really shouldn't be touching, and I shouldn't be encouraging, you know, this interaction with especially raccoons, because they can cause so much trouble, you know, in your yard and stuff. But I thought that was kind of a cool thing when you were talking about and showing your little raccoon in the picture and stuff, and it just sort of spawned this idea. And I was thinking about other interactions that I have, and maybe not so much with even people, but objects and, like you said, animals and things like that, that where you have this whole relationship, this whole interaction, but you can't touch and you can't, you know, hold, and you can't, you know, it's very interesting. It's a very 2020 thing, is, you know, that whole like, oh, 6 feet away, you know, where's your mask? And it's here, it's a raccoon, you know, So anyway, I just thought I thought you might think that was interesting, especially considering the way your lab is so growing and expanding in your blobosphere as well. So I just wanted to sort of share that as I have some of those experiences as well. So.
You know, and it's also like, you know, it's not my lab, it's a living lab. It's everybody has a living lab. And that's the whole point, where it's like you had the moment with a raccoon. And that, I think, for me, especially for the raccoon piece that I have in the show, so I can't remember my own titles oftentimes.
Soul recycling, I think. Yeah.
Recycling and human time. And part of that interaction did come, that was a very fresh piece. It's part of, I haven't really shown it anywhere. I think usually in talks I would show it as a new piece, but I was so inspired, of course, by soul cycling, but not that I cycle myself, but also the kind of idea of how when you go out at night, you see these critters, like they look at you, you have this moment of pause. And it's the same with the squirreling video too. It's like you're just standing there and have a showdown. Like, I don't know what it is, but I, in my head as a human, because I make stories, I create this whole narrative of like, we have a moment. I see you, you see me. And the raccoon starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because like they don't like they're the only, I think, creatures that really kind of freak me out, because they look at you and they just go like that, and then they stand up, right? And yeah, and I just love that whole like kind of like that their defense mechanism, their fight, flight, or freeze is just to make themselves bigger. And yeah, so I thank you for sharing that raccoon story. Yeah.
Any other questions? We have some in the chat. Go ahead.
I
Hello.
do.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura. This was so amazing. I'm so glad I joined this conversation. And fucking exciting to discover your work. I'm calling in from near to San Francisco, so kind of nice to see that connection too. And I'm a sculptor, work with clay, make a lot of blobby objects too. So this really hit me, yeah. Um, in a strange way, I feel like considering what we are going through right now as visual artists, I feel like you've been doing this for a long time, almost like you knew what was going to come. I'm kind of curious to hear if you have a premonition about where visual art is going. Yeah.
That's a really, wow, thank you so much. Now I'll have to like open up this archive in like 2045 to see if actually robots have taken over the world. Um, yeah, I think I I'm gonna do the really cheesy answer. I think I worked on it my whole life. I think honestly also I owe it so much to my dad, who has, he's loved the camera, loved the camcorder. Like I've always been in front of it. Um, and that kind of like, I think I never thought of it as performance until going, until I would go, that's an art form. Um, but in this current moment, I think what a lot of artists, including me, I think everyone else who I spoke to, feel is that it's hard to make, right? It's really hard to just even think or just be. It's taxing. And but at the same time, I like to say that at the same time we're here. We are here. And as artists, I think so many people, like, I mean, I'm just speaking of my bubble, but many of us have realized that I am here. I have my body. I am breathing. I have the privilege to breathe without thinking about it. Is such a big revelation, and I think that is going to that in that way things have been changing a lot. Where I hear so much about healing, so much about the word trauma, the word is there a future, uncertainty, unknown. It's very prevalent, but it's odd because as artists we always think about that. Like we make things out of like trash, we make things out of things that aren't being seen. We're able to make it visible and shown and seen, and as we see it they see us too. And so it's like, I don't know who I mean by they, but that's the abstract they. And so I think that whole kind of it's a moment of revelation for many people, reckoning. I think there's so much emphasis on humanity, also in social justice, equity, diversity, and also just this whole year of how we realized how, again, I talk about like the self-impermanence anxiety. We're realizing how much we're mortal. And I think that's going to affect a lot of what it looks like going forward. Maybe there will be more emphasis on ephemeral work. Maybe there will be more emphasis on this obsession, trying to like make objects because you want it to be preserved and be shown, especially as things go even more digital. And who knows, maybe like, this is all our interaction is going to be this rectangle, and that's where it's going to be. But I think there's been really interesting work coming up that talks about those kind of like speculative scenarios too, like what it means to not like be beyond human intelligence. And I think as somebody who likes to think about sci-fi or digital culture, it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of work that is not meant for humans too, which I always find really intriguing. Work that's, maybe it's for different intelligence, and that kind of humbling aspect as humans, I think will is infectious and will definitely like going forward will transpire and inspire many people. That was a very lengthy question
No, no,
answer.
no. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yeah. Whenever it is safe, and if you're in San Francisco, I want to meet you in person.
Oh. Thank you. I really
Thanks.
Amazing. It's so nice to see you again, Ashwini.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Jared has a raised hand. Jared, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering what program do you use to piece all of your artwork together? And then I was wondering if like the background Professor Raymond has and those pieces that are kind of like I Spy books, do the objects have a personal connection, and are you very meticulous in planning them out, or is it more chaotic and random?
That's a great question. I talked to a class in Florida this month, like this Monday, yeah, this Monday, and that was a very similar question I got. And yeah, I think I basically use like the Adobe Suite and also whatever open source that is really easy to use because I'm technically savvy, but I'm also not. And the many pieces in the exhibition itself is a lot of it is shot through my cell phone. So that's a big part of what I do. I like using whatever device is available. And so cell phone photography is a big part of my process. And I also, for the AR Pony, that deer though pieces are through collaborations with Google AR. And yeah, Photoshop, Premiere, a lot of like AR Pony, for instance. I make music through GarageBand, unless it's actually really like lovely mastered by a professional, my collaborator. And yeah, I like to be very scavengy and use whatever's available. So that's why also social media is a big part of my practice. Like I like to see what's available out there. And so oftentimes I would download videos and use those filters or things that are super easily like available and affordable in my projects. So I like recycling. I keep recycling media over and over again until it disappears.
Thank you. And I just have one last question. What's the story behind your couch and the face pillow?
So Michelle Raymond actually described this as a 80s girl's dream house, dream room. Lisa Frank.
Lisa Frank.
That's Lisa
Yeah.
Frank. And the face pillow is actually a piece by artist Ryan Wurst. And it's a series called Mouth Breathers. You could look it up online, but it's I think it was part of his solo exhibition last year. Yep.
Thank you. I love that description of the couch.
Oh, go ahead. Lisa asked, how do you know if something you create is good or not?
Everything is as long as it's fun, it's good. I don't know if you noticed me, but when I watch my own videos, I laugh. I think, and so I learned that through watching other artists. Like I think the enthusiasm is so contagious and viral when I see artists with, like when they really care about what they do, and they're all my babies. Like I put time into it and limited time too. That saying, right? And so I think good is if it's good, if it exists, it's good probably, because if it's not, it wouldn't have been finished. But alongside that, I do like to talk about how each piece in the show, I think I forgot to mention that each piece in the show is like a word or sentence for me. Writing a sentence or writing a paragraph, because they're always incomplete, and the show is probably going to be incomplete towards even after it closes, because there's no closing. It's something that's a work in progress that leads to something else. And this kind of that is, yeah, so for me, good is a very and for me, I think I like it to be like that. And so yeah, that's a great question. But I think good is when I feel good, when it feels right, and when I feel comfortable to be able to share it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the kitschiness is like a huge part of your work, right? It's like you're not trying to hide that. It's not supposed to be like that you are, you know, a Hollywood film producer putting out these videos. It's like you are in your living room using, like you said earlier, all the things at your disposal. And that's like kind of part of the charm. I think it feels like it feels so much more human, even though you're using all this technology, because you know, you are in your house, you know, with your Lisa Frank, you know, like set up, and, you know, you bring a plant in and you're like dancing with the plant or the eggplant or whatever it is. And so it starts to really feel like that could be me. And so there's something about it that I can really relate to, even though sometimes when I look at your videos or I experience your videos, it's like, what is she doing? What's going on here? And I think that that's part of the whole thing, right? And we've had these conversations kind of back and forth about, you know, the unknowing and like how the not knowing is actually a huge part of it, that like we sense things and we feel things, and kind of, you know, the knowing and the not knowing is there, and it's something that we could dig into and we could pull it apart if we wanted to. But then there's also this kind of just response, this physicality, you know, and this connection. And I think especially, and it had come up earlier, but I think very timely in the last, you know, 8 months or however long we've been going through the pandemic. But it just feels like the feelings, you know, that we get, you know, we're just able to, with your work, I think, kind of sit with those feelings and kind of try to process them, even if they're confusing or frustrating or what is going on, I don't know. And all these questions kind of come up. It really, you know, kind of, it pulls at our feelings. And I think that that's a huge part of your work that I love to kind of sit with. So.
Like kitschiness has definitely always been there. I think I'm getting less kitschy as I'm getting older, I would like to think. But also I don't think it's ever gonna go away. I think I'm better at masking it. The lo-fi-ness has always been there too, but I think it's again, I think earlier somebody asked like how long did it take you to make the piece, and the immediacy has always been so important. That's why I'm so attracted to the digital. Fast dissemination. And even if pieces look that they're really choppily done, I'm super OCD sometimes about certain parts of it. It could be like a smudge of nobody will understand it, but for me, it's there. So I have to go back and redo it. And so it's kind of like, I like to say it as like, you know, painters have gesturally marks. Like for me, that like working with the digital space or my body, like all of that is part of the paint and pigments and mixing and all of that. So yeah, and so it's yeah, thank you so much for the comment. Yeah, I definitely am very much I like to leave people with things to think about. And because if I can't answer all the questions in the world, and I think part of being somebody who makes stuff is that hopefully other people will do it too. And so yeah, that's why I think this whole idea of a philosopher, and I'm so grateful for having the space to collaborate with other people. Hopefully many of you do sign up and talk to me so that we can make something amazing going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura. I really, really appreciate you being patient through our Zoom bomb experience today, and just entirely being a rad artist and person to work with in general. Just a few things to note before everybody kind of hops off. Again, remember December 2nd is the workshop. So if you do want to join us and make some more artifacts, philosophic artifacts with Laura, we will be doing that on December 2nd. It's a Wednesday after Thanksgiving at noon. So Zoom links will be on Archer Gallery's website, archergallery.space. So hopefully we see some of you back here again for that. Again, I will probably edit this video so we don't have all of that noise happening, but the video will be available online too, should you want to refresh anything. And also, obviously, go visit the website. Go see the exhibition, Living Lab. It's up now through February 6th, and go experience all these artifacts that are up there for yourself. It's such a fun and humorous and playful exhibition that I'm really, really excited about. Laura and I have been working on it for a few months and just, you know, collaborating, kind of going back and forth with these ideas. And I'm really proud of where it's at now. So feel free to get in touch. There is a, like Laura showed, a button that you can go in and write us an email if you want to collaborate with Laura one-on-one and make an artifact with her. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome.